Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Senior Scholarship Application Reviewer Training. I am Angie Anthony. I am the Director of Scholarships for Hillsborough Education Foundation, and I hope today you find some of this information useful while you are reviewing applications. Um, and just some housekeeping. We are going to be putting some documents in the chat for you that you can download. We will also be emailing it to you. So if you don't catch it during this call, go ahead. Don't worry, it'll be coming to you. And in those documents, we're gonna go through a lot of what they contain during this call. We ask that if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will address them at the end. So we have quite a few attendees in. I just want to give just a couple, maybe just another minute or so to let folks filter on in. And I'll tell you about our learning objectives for today. We're going to go over what the scholarship process is. We'll discuss the actual reviewing of the applications in AwardSpring. That is the online platform that we use. And then we'll talk about the scoring, how we score the applications. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about Hillsborough Education Foundation. And our mission is to ensure every student in Hillsborough County receives an outstanding public education that equips them for a fulfilling future. And our vision is to make sure that Hillsborough County Public Schools is one of the best places to learn and to teach, where 100% of our students graduate with the ability to pursue anything they can dream. And of course, this is definitely one of those programs that helps them get there. I want to share about last year's awards. Many of you are returning and as reviewers, and we appreciate that so much. We were able to give over 330 scholarships out last year. They ranged in value from $500 up to a 4-year University Florida prepaid. We also had a $40,000 award, and the total value to those students was $906,000. We're not really expecting this year to be much different. Hoping maybe for a little better. So scholarships and donors are still coming forward, believe it or not. And we're hoping for a banner year. So as I talk about those donors, I'm sure some of our callers joining us today are donors, but there are many that are volunteers. And so I want them to know, where do we get the money? We have individuals and families that donate. Sometimes it's a gift in honor of someone or maybe in memory. And we also hold endowments. Additionally, we have many companies. This is just a couple of examples that work with us. Outback and Suncoast Credit Union are 2 examples. And we also have a long list of other nonprofit agencies that are looking to support education in the community. We have some sorority alumni groups, Kiwanis Club. We have a few Gasparilla crews and several family foundations. And the reviewers, as I mentioned, many of you may be donors and others of you are independent volunteers. Everybody signs a conflict of interest. If you haven't done that yet, it will be repeatedly crossing your path, the ability to do so. So we will have links to that as well. Basically, the conflict of interest is just making sure if you are related to an applicant or benefiting in some way, if a specific applicant is selected, we ask that you disclose that so that we would be able to assign those applications to someone else, that application or multiples if there are. As I said, the link has been sent out previously, but you certainly will see it again. It's also available on your review group pages, and you will see it there as well. So moving forward, a little bit about the scholarship eligibility. And I do want to note while I'm here, this is a real picture. This student right here was selected for a Florida prepaid four-year university scholarship a few years ago. And she is an ambassador for UF, and she sent this great picture, which we love. But our basic eligibility is they have to be seniors in Hillsborough County. They can be attending public school, and that includes charter or virtual. They may be homeschool students or private school students. The other eligibilities are those things we typically would expect to see based on GPAs, where they plan to attend, if they're going to a traditional college, a community college, maybe a technical college, what their majors are. Maybe they're specific to the high school or looking for a certain number of community service hours or extracurricular activities, and of course, financial need and more. These are not all inclusive. They may be one or several of these that are eligibility criteria. But I wanted you to know that all of the students that you see in your set of applications that you're assigned to review will have already been screened as meeting the scholarships criteria. In particular, I wanted to point out financial need information. If that is a requirement of a particular scholarship, we handle that here at HEF. You will not see that information. Just know that they have been screened and for the initial screening, and we are verifying documentations on the back end while you are reviewing. So just a real brief on the scholarship process itself. We are in application period November 1st through January 31st. So Friday is their deadline. We will begin reviews on February 10th and running through March 8th. During April, we are working on award notifications, and then the students that are selected as the awardees have until February 28th of next year to claim their funds. And year round, we are in donor giving. We have wonderful donors that are contacting me throughout the year. So it's really great. Once a student's awarded, we contact their school counselors so that they can be recognized during their award ceremonies at their schools. And the system you'll be in doing reviews in will notify them as well. Students will be claiming their funds this year by submitting these items online. So we verify they're truly enrolled in college. We ask for an information release form because we do lots of social media and press releases. And it's totally up to the student, but we do ask them to give us an authorization or decline. And then we also ask them to write a thank you letter to their donor. Next, we send the check to the school once we have all of those things, and the students can use the funding for tuition, books, fees, other college fees, housing, and meal plans. So we're getting to the meat. How do we navigate through these applications? First, a shout out to all of you because it's a lot of applications. These are the numbers from last year, and we already are close to this number of completed applications. And if you know anything about teenagers today, they wait till the last minute. So we always have a large amount of finalized scholarship applications in the 11th hour on the 31st. So last year, this involved almost 5,000 reviews because each application is reviewed a minimum by a minimum of 3 reviewers. We had 341 reviewers, and there was over 980 hours put into the reviewing. I advanced a little quickly, but this is the link to the portal. This information is in the guidebook that was added to the chat. If you came in a little bit late, just a reminder that there are documents in the chat for you. There's a application reviewer guidebook for you, as well as the scoring rubric. And again, this information on how to get in is contained in the guidebook. If this is your first time logging in, you don't want to just go here and do the bottom part where it says, do you have an account and register? Do not do that. We have entered you in the system. So you want to come in, put your email address in, click forgot password if this is your very first time. If you're a seasoned veteran, your password should be the same. But if you really did forget your password, go ahead and click forgot password, and the system will give you a new one. Where it lands you is a dashboard that looks like this, and it's going to show you the review groups, which are typically the scholarship names that you are assigned to. You may have more than one group listed here. The global review group, if you're a volunteer that's returning, you may remember we used that in the past. You will not see that this year, so you may see a list. Okay, so after let me back up because I don't think I said that, but you want to access your applications. You're going to click on one of the groups to, in this case, beta group, to get to the 29 applications that are remaining. Once you're in the screen, you'll see that the names are not displayed, but you can click on one of the students' numbers, the applicant number, to begin. And again, all of the applications that you see have met the scholarship qualifications. This is an example of a numbered students begin the top part of the screen. So if you missed signing the conflict of interest form, you can click here to get to it. And if you need any assistance, here's my contact information right there. Easy for you to ask me a quick question if you have one. This is the further down that same screen for the student. So as you can see on the left, there are the responses to the application questions. And on the right, you have the scorecard. The scoring rubric will show you that we've put into the chat, will show you a brief amount description for each of these and how you should be scoring them. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. But just as far as navigation is concerned, I wanted you guys to know that you can always minimize this, because what will happen is if the questions are longer, these are all short. But if they're longer, it may be hidden back here. So you'll want to minimize the scorecard, and you can always click here to expand it again. On this screen, so this is what the bottom of an application would look like. You can use previous and next to navigate through those applications, moving forward or going backwards. And you can edit scores even after you saved them. So what I find a lot of times is new reviewers start off either super easy or super hard, and then they contact me and say, oh my goodness, as I kept reading, it was making me think I should change some of what I did before. You absolutely can do that. Just go backwards or go back to the initial review group so that you can go backtrack your work. We do not look at the scores until the entire application period has closed. Another thing I want to show you for navigation is that besides minimizing, for some people, not all of the scorecard categories may be displaying. So you can, there's a little scroll bar here if that's the case. So you'll want to scroll down. You can also, you need to use the save button to save. In this case, there is a spot on all scorecards for notes where you can write notes to yourself. And again, that's the use of the scorecard. So this is the same as the previous one I showed you. It's just that we rolled the scorecard down a little bit so you could see the notes. And again, you would want to click save. That's pretty much all the navigating you'll be doing in the system. I do want to go back to that slide, though. There was one thing about the notes. If there is something critical that you feel I need to know, and I would ask that you reach out to me directly. There are, as you saw on an earlier slide, thousands of reviews being done. So if there's something of you particularly want to call out to me, make sure you just shoot me a quick email so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle. So we're going to transition over to talking about the scoring rubric. This is what it looks like. Don't be alarmed. I don't expect you to read this whole thing right now. We're going to break it down piece by piece. But if you've downloaded it, this is what it looks like. With each category, I'm sure this looks familiar to the scorecard that we saw on the previous screens. Moving forward. So let's break it down. The first one is the unweighted GPA. And you can see that we've got point ranges for each of these. So depending on where their GPA falls, if a student has an unweighted GPA of a 3, they're going to fall in here. I've also captured the application questions that you will find these answers on. So this is the specific question. It just says cumulative unweighted GPA high school, which is wording that corresponds to the student's report cards. In your guidebook that we have added to the chat, there is a more detailed range. So you can see that a GPA of 3 falls in this category. So this one right here is 2.901 through 3. The student would get 10 points, and the points are right here. Again, this is in your guidebook. Next category is the extracurricular activities and leadership. We move from 0 points if they're not doing anything, no extracurriculars, and nothing you could extrapolate from the application that indicated leadership was demonstrated. They get a few points if you determine it's a minimal participation and in extracurriculars and no leadership demonstrated. If you see moderate participation and some leadership, 4 to 7, and over here 8 to 10 is for significant extracurricular activities and a considerable amount of leadership. This definitely is one of those judgment scoring criteria. These are the many questions that you will find the responses in. So I want to tell you a couple of things here. Which sports do you currently play on a team? The answers here come from a drop down. So the students have limited answers. If they select other within that drop down, they'll be given the next question. If you answered other for team sports, please provide us with the details. So it's an open field for them to tell us about it. Then we have the question about if they've participated in any of these specific extracurricular activities. Again, this is a drop down, and they select other if there's something else. The fourth question here only displays for the students who selected other, where they can have a free text field to enter their responses in. And then we do specifically point out to them to tell us about any leadership roles that they've held. So that is yet a separate question. I want to share here that as you're working on applications, not all of the questions will be the same across all of the students you review, because the system only shows you the questions they answered. So in the case of these top two, which sports do you currently play? If they did not select other, you won't see this question on there. Furthermore, there's a question before this one that asks them if they play sports on a team. You may not see that question either. Okay, so if you don't see the question, that means there aren't any. So a lot of this I already told you. There is a wide range of extracurricular activities available to the students. Um, you want to look at that. You want to look at consistency of effort and commitment. Certainly, there's a distinction in the student who's playing football and practicing every day and has games on the weekend and is traveling versus a student who may be doing a club that maybe meets once a week. You want to look at their initiative and indication of specific involvement and what kind of results they may be seeing from that. Leadership responsibility. A lot of these things, are going to reveal themselves not only in the questions I showed you, but also in the essay questions. And a lot of times, students may overlook something from a drop down, a particular sport, and you may pick it up later in the essays. So there's a bit of a juggle to figuring out your points for this one. If you have any questions as you go along, just let me know. For those that are new to reviewing scholarship applications, in your guidebook, there's an appendix where we've compiled a lot of the clubs and different abbreviations that you may see. We've given you some information about what they are and what participating in those things involves, as well as if it's available. Not all clubs have a website, but if there's a website, if you're interested in learning more to help you gauge and their participation, by all means, you can go check those out. Next category is community service. They have a total of 10 possible points here. We range from they didn't do any community service hours at all and are getting a 0, or they had 90 or more, which is captured in 7 to 10 points. Straightforward question of how many total hours of community service have they completed while in high school? And we have a handy dandy chart for you. You will find that there are many students who have done more than 90 hours. And I don't know if you noticed on the scorecard, there is an area for bonus points. We'll talk more about that later. But if you see an awful lot of community service hours, you're free to give them a few more points. Employment hours too. So we give them 10 points for this as well, same as extracurricular, same as community service. We know that students that are working, many of them they have to contribute to the household. So they don't have as much time to do the extracurriculars and community service. So we have a point range again for them, all the way from 1 to 5 hours a week, getting 1 to 2 points, to if they are working 20.1 hours or more, getting 9 to 10 points. Again, a straightforward question. How many hours do you work weekly? another chart. So again, pretty straightforward. If we're talking about a student who works 20 hours a week, they're going to fall into this category because they're working the high is 20 hours. They get 8 points. Next, we move to the essays. So the essays are the hardest, I think, to review, but they're also the most rewarding because hopefully this is where the student is telling you about themselves. I'm going to give you an overview. We'll talk about this pretty thoroughly, but in your guidebook, there's a much more robust description, and there's also some examples of the kind of content that would score high. Look, I'm going to come back here. So, excuse me. Oh, I just need a drink. Ooh, a lot of talking. Okay. 0 to 8 points would be the student didn't actually answer the question, and maybe their writing was not uh, thought out, thought through, thoughtful. Um, and as the points progress, they're answering the question and they're very focused and more in depth. So they can get, this is the highest point area, they can get up to 35 points for this. So, what are the essay questions? Well, there's two that every student is going to answer. You will see it on every application. And these are the questions. We want to know about you. Tell us your story. What's special about you? We're looking for at least 250 words. That's like a large paragraph. We don't expect you to count the words, but if you see 2 or 3 sentences, that's probably pretty far off of 250 words. The second essay is basically asking them why they deserve a scholarship and about their future plans. Some applications may show you more written essays depending on the scholarships that they qualified for. So when we talked about the donors that we have, the many donors, our donors have the ability to add a question. So only the students who qualified on the quantitative criteria will see the extra questions. So you may have a little more content to read through and score. So what are we looking for? We know it's subjective. I want you to know that there's a minimum of 3 reviewers. No students score and ability to get a scholarship is resting on only your shoulders. We're looking for how they're writing. Are the sentences clear and varied? Are they using appropriate vocabulary and appropriate advanced sentence structure? Do they establish a point? Was the question fully answered? Okay. Other things we're looking for, did they tell their story well? Did they give you details? Was it interesting and compelling? Did they reveal their character? Did they tell you about themselves? Did they copy and paste the same content to all of the essays? That wouldn't be answering the question. The questions, as I mentioned, the 250 words is a large paragraph, and there's examples in your guidebook. Moving to the next category is grammar and spelling. So yes, we take points off for this. Do know that we notify the students in the application. We tell them grammar and spelling counts. So 15 points moving from it was poor grammar and punctuation, obvious misspellings, 0 to 3 points, all the way up to everything was perfect. It would be few mistakes for 12 to 15 points. You've got another handy dandy chart. And this is really kind of 1-to-1. If they didn't make any mistakes, they get all of them. If they made 15 or more mistakes, they lose all of them. Bonus points. So as I mentioned earlier, you have the discretion to award extra points. Um, you are the one that we're relying on to read through their application and synthesize the data. So within those essays and all of the content, you can look at, does the student have exceptional challenges that they're dealing with, or stressors? Are they dealing with a lot of pressure? And like I mentioned, families where the student has to work to support the family. Um, if you see, actually, the next screen, I'll give us more details, but this goes from they have little to no life challenges or stressors that you noted all the way up to extraordinary. So some things we're looking at uh, fall into these categories. So pregnancy, homelessness, exceptional displays of achievement effort. Do they have a lot of AP classes? Are they in an IB program? Maybe they're dual enrolled in college. Are they the primary caregiver for siblings or other family members? Maybe they're an abuse survivor. And we do see that periodically in the essays. Um, Parents who are incarcerated, uh, hour community service or employment hours that are just off the chart for a student who's trying to go to high school and maybe they're excelling at everything. Again, these are just examples. I can't anticipate everything you'll see, so use them as you feel is appropriate. And if, as you're reading through these essays and looking at things that are exceptional challenges for students, if you run into anything that you feel is a safety concern, please notify me. Just let me know the student's number. I will find the rest of their information. And I have my contact information handy here on this slide, and we will follow up. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's great fun and rewarding. I just want to give you some reminders here. So if you, everybody who's a volunteer reviewer probably already signed the conflict of interest when they registered to volunteer. If you are a donor reviewer, please make sure you sign the conflict of interest form. The important dates to remember: we will begin reviewing on February 10th, and we will conclude, we hope, on March 8th. I'm going to advance to this slide and let you guys check out some real quotes from students while I take a look at the chat to see if we don't have anything in the chat, and it looks like maybe it was limited to just me and the panel. There's somebody joining me from our office. I am going to see if there's maybe any way I can fix that. If not, what we would ask is if you have any questions, please contact me after we move past this slide. You are going to see my contact information. So please reach out with any questions you have. Oh, I see questions. I found them. Okay. Somebody wants to know where the guidebook is located, and it should be available in the chat. So then, Kat, look for a little icon that says chat. You should be able to download it from there. I have somebody else who says they don't think they're allowed to receive any of these notifications. They don't see the welcome book. If you are not seeing the reviewer guide or the scoring rubric, not to worry. I'm going to email those out along with copies of the slides and a link to the recording. So don't worry. Some people have gotten questions to me via the Q&A, and I think they are getting there through the three little dots that say more. I'm going to advance the slide. There you go to my contact information as I keep going. So yes, the slide deck will be sent along with the documents. And somebody asked if there's going to be an evening orientation. We were not planning another orientation. Actually, this is Doris. Hello, Doris. We were not planning an evening one because we're recording this. So this will be available to anybody who didn't make it and today at noon. And I am available for questions from anybody who needs any further assistance. Aram asked a good question. Who sees the notes in the scorecard? Well, they're available to me and they're available to you. There is one scholarship, one or two scholarships that they are donor specific. And so the donor coordinator will see the notes because they're working as committees. And so I pull down reports with those. But in general, I'm not recognizing your name as specific to a specific scholarship committee through the donor them directly. Then they're just for you, unless I go to look at them for some reason. But if there is something particular you need to get a message to me, please do not rely on the notes. Aram, another good question. Can the GPA point assignment not be automated? I know. So you're singing my song, and excuse me, we have put that development request into WardSpring. And, if you want to echo it, I think that's a great idea. We have explained how and what we do. I've sent them my guidebook so they could see it. And I know you put the question in there probably at the GPA point, but it applies to everything quantifiable. Excellent question. We're working on it. Okay, I keep scrolling. So people are saying they don't have access to the site. That's correct. You're not all in yet. And the scoring period, the review period begins on February 10th. We will have you in before February 10th, but you should not begin until then. Doris asked for community service. If it's more than 100, the student can be scored 15 points versus what the rubric says, 9 to 10. So I think you may be asking if you can add on the bonus points to make it 15. Community service hours, the top points in your scorecard, you're maxed at 10, but you can give them, excuse me, the additional 5 bonus points that you have to give at your discretion. Okay, so somebody wrote in saying that they tried to access, they tried forgot password, but it said their email was not registered. That's correct. We don't have all of you in yet. The review period, you'll be able to get in on February 10th. Okay. Somebody said we did a great job. Thank you. And let's see. Somebody said they don't think chat's allowed in their organization. That's good to know. Thank you. Someone asked about for the grammar section, is there a point scale? Yes, you probably added that in before we got to that slide. And is AI an issue? So good question, Deborah. At this point, we are not actively taking giant steps about that. We indicate within the application that the students should be writing their own material and responses in their own genuine, authentic voice. I'm sure it's going on. Um, Perhaps more to come on that in future years, but I would say we hope that if they are using AI, they're using it as a writing tool. I use it as a writing tool myself, so I can't necessarily fault them for that, but I hope their authenticity is coming through. All right, so da, 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 da. Um, Emmy asked for the slide with the login site again. Emmy, it will be in your guidebook when you get it. It's like the first page of the actual content. I'm not sure I scroll all the way back to that right now, but you will have that information. And sometimes I include it just in the email content itself. Um, Someone wrote, considering the applications are based on numbers and IDs and not names, how do we confirm the conflict of interest on any application? So for volunteers, I have asked them to disclose if they know anyone who is applying for a HEF scholarship this year. So I can just make sure they don't get it. If you think this has potential, just let me know who you think the potential conflicts could be. And if you see something in an email that maybe was a name you missed in contacting me, or maybe sometimes in the essays, the students will include their names. So you may know. And if that happens, let me know. Just don't finish scoring that one. Give me the number and I will reassign it to someone else. Olga asked if you're able to use your Humana or personal emails. Olga, we will use whatever it is that you signed up with. So, however, we have communicated with you to date is the email we have, and we'll put you in. I know Humana put the call for volunteers out to all of you. So I don't know if that's an issue for them. It's not for us. So that's up to you. If you need to follow up with me individually, feel free. And then Rosa asked, when can we expect the email with the information? Give us, I would say, give us till the end of the week. We still have time with reviews not starting until February 10th. And that is the end of the line for the questions I see here. I'm going to give a last call. I'm not sure how many we even have left in the call. There's still a lot of you. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you for volunteering your time. It truly takes a village, and we value your participation so much. If you run into any troubles as you're moving along, again, I can't anticipate everything you might see. Just let me know. I'm an email away. I may not answer right away, but I'll get to you. And you can keep going because you can go back and forth between your students. Let me just check. Oh, Yanni says, thank you. You're very welcome. Well, thank you. I'm going to wrap this up. And I appreciate you all. I'm looking forward to working with you. Take care, everybody.